Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, today I'm going to spend a few minutes speaking to you about one of my favorite summer activities, road trips. Last year, my wife and I had some unused PTO time, and we were really struggling with the way to spend the time. So we put together some trip criteria to help us figure out where to go. First, the trip had to be somewhere new, and it had to be within driving distance. My wife and I do a lot of biking and a lot of bike racing, so we've been all over the Northeast. So we wanted to get somewhere outside of that geography. We wanted it to be within driving distance because we like traveling with the two Bernese mountain dogs you saw in the last picture. And we also wanted to bring our bikes with us. Putting bikes on a plane it can be expensive, it's a hassle, and a lot of times they get damaged. It's a lot easier just to put them in the car. We wanted to go somewhere where there's outdoor activities, specifically really good mountain biking, but other things to do as well. And we also wanted a good location and place to stay. Somewhere with good accommodations, some restaurants, a little bit of nightlife, other things to do other than just biking. So we decided to visit western North Carolina, specifically the town of Brevard, which is in the western Appalachians of North Carolina. Brevard's 862 miles away, which by my wife and I's definition is just barely within driving distance. Google says it's 13 hours away, but that's for someone that doesn't drink any coffee or any water or have two dogs. It definitely took a little bit longer than that. We left around 1 in the morning and got there about 5:30 at night. And overall, I mean, it looks like a long trip, but it's a pleasant journey. It's fairly scenic along the way. It went by pretty quickly on the way down, a little bit longer on the way back. Of course, the first place we visited was a bike shop. And this bike shop was really cool because it had bikes, gear, maps, but it also served beer, which is not something that you typically find in a bike shop in the Northeast. So that set a good first impression for us. This part of North Carolina is covered in national forest. We stayed at right about there, and the base of Pisgah National Forest, but also in that area is Nantahala National Forest, Cherokee National Forest, Great Smoky Mountain National Forest, and a lot of state forests as well. So thousands of acres of wilderness and open space. In addition to open space, there's also cities and towns to visit. We stayed in Brevard, which was a smaller town, but it had some good restaurants and it was a good base camp for our mountain bike activities. About 45 minutes from Brevard is Asheville, North Carolina. This is Asheville. Asheville's the largest city in western North Carolina, and it's regularly voted by Outside Magazine as the best outdoors-oriented city in North America. And unlike a lot of outdoor cities, there's actually places to work other than bike shops and ski areas. You can see that there's actually some real businesses there. It might be a good place to relocate to permanently some point. There's also historical sites in this part of the country. Does anybody know what this is?
My house.
Very nice. This is the Biltmore. It was built by Vanderbilt in the late 1800s. In addition to this ridiculously ornate mansion, it's also surrounded by 8,000 acres of grounds. And a lot of those grounds are very ornately manicured. It's really a sight to see. This is a picture of me biking down a trail that is canopied in, those are giant rhododendron bushes. One thing we didn't realize when we went to this part of the country, or this part of North Carolina, is that it's actually a temperate rainforest. So a lot of the trails look like this, and most times it felt like you were biking in Costa Rica. It was really a really neat experience. This is a picture of my wife on one of the rougher trails that we did. This was actually one of like half a dozen stream crossings that we had to ford that day. You can see it's very green, it's very lush. Portions of this trail, because everything grows very quickly down there, were really overgrown, and it would have helped if we had a machete to get our way through the trails. It was pretty neat. This is one of the few trails that we were on that actually got above the tree line. Because it's so green down there, there's not a lot of exposed views. This trail involved probably an hour and 45-minute nonstop climb, biking up the mountain, followed by a really fun 45-minute descent. And along that descent, there were some nice exposed views and some pretty technical terrain too. This is a trail map of DuPont State Forest, and all these squiggly lines are trails. I just wanted to give some perspective on how many different trails are in these areas, and it must have taken a really large cabal of people to build all of them. And these trails aren't just for mountain biking, they're multi-use trails. They're for biking, hiking, and horseback riding as well. And there's lots of other things to do in this area other than just biking. For example, this area is known as the waterfall capital of North America. And within probably a 10-mile radius of where we were staying, there were about a dozen different waterfalls. This was one of the larger ones that we tended to visit after we were done biking each day. This is the same waterfall, just a more zoomed out shot to provide some perspective. Typically, like in any given day, there'd be like 30 people swimming at the bottom or on the rocks, and there may even be in this picture. It's just very zoomed out. It's really big waterfall. The water was pretty warm too. And like all good vacations, all good trips, they have to come to an end. But there is one way that you can prolong this trip, and that's to take the Blue Ridge Parkway for part of the way home. The Blue Ridge Parkway runs from western North Carolina all the way to the middle of Virginia. And what's really neat about the Blue Ridge Parkway is that it runs along the top of the Appalachian Mountains. So its typical elevation is around 3,000 to 4,000 feet. And every like 5 to 10 miles or so, there's pull-offs with really cool views. It takes a little bit longer than taking the highway home, but it's definitely worthwhile. So in conclusion, if you're ever struggling to spend some unused PTO time, I'd highly recommend visiting western North Carolina. Thank you.